The other day I had a conversation with a group of friends, and in this conversation they were extremely frustrated, and I'll tell you why. They have an event coming up, and all the time they have certain teams that are responsible for certain tasks. This time around, one individual was given a task to lead this team, while on the other hand there was another individual that was always the lead, but this time they weren't, and they decided to step over their boundaries and try to tell the other lead what to do, not giving them full responsibility of knowing that they're in charge and they get to make the calls, and that's what the lead said. However, too many times we have examples like this in the church, and today I want to talk to you guys about the importance of leading and avoiding the habits of overstepping your boundaries. Before we do so, I want to make sure to encourage you guys to like, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to leave a comment. It really does help out the channel. Titles are great. They help people identify what they are supposed to do in an organization. I understand people will probably say things like, well, I'm a Christian, Ruben, and I lead by example, and that's by serving, and whatever my title is, I'm gonna be a Christian and just serve. Okay, that's great, but understand I'm going somewhere with this, so relax. You have presidents, you have CEOs, you have vice presidents, and then you have regional managers, and you have assistant managers, and then you have shift managers. And then in churches, you have stuff like lead pastors, assistant pastors, church leaders, servants, and the list goes on. Roles are important. Too many times do I see multiple leads in one team. And at first sight, it might sound great to have multiple people leading one team, but understand that there has to be one lead that stands out, and they have to have roles and tasks, and they are supposed to fulfill those responsibilities. You guys can't have two heads on one body. That's already set up for failure. Think about Moses. God chose Moses to lead the people out of Egypt. God could have chosen multiple people to do the exact same task, or anyone else to accompany him. He could have done all of this because God is God and I don't question him, but he chose one individual for this task. Noah in the ark, again, he chose one individual for this task. That was Noah. What about Jesus and the disciples? Yes, but God sent his only son. He didn't send multiple sons and daughters to lead these disciples. God chose one person, and that was Jesus. And I hope you aren't hearing what I'm not saying. My message is that one individual to lead is important. I understand wisdom is great, and you can learn from other organizations, other churches. You can learn by asking other people for help, but I'm not going to ask another individual to pastor the church that God has called me to pastor. I'm not going to ask another businessman to help me run my business, and that's because they were never in charge to begin with. I'm going to run my business the way I believe I should run it. Yes, it's okay for me to ask for help. Yes, it's okay for me to ask for wisdom and counsel, but I understand that I'm in charge and I have to fulfill my role. Imagine having somebody in your organization, like an employee or an assistant, being told what to do by the manager, and then you have another colleague who is also the manager and ask them otherwise. It's conflict. Too many times I see this in the church, where churches have multiple pastors and they give them all the same authority, and next thing you know, disasters happen all the time. Well, you have examples like, I told so-and-so to do this during service. Well, I told them not to, and that's coming from two different pastors. Understand that as a leader in an organization, like a lead pastor or president, you have to make sure to set roles, set tasks, and descriptions. You can't give too much authority away. Otherwise, you have multiple voices leading a group. As an assistant, you have one job. As an assistant manager, you have one role. You follow that role and not step over it. Assistant pastors, worship pastors, assistant managers, supervisors, they all tend to get to a place where they think they have more power and act like they can be the lead. Unfortunately, that's just human nature, and people always overstep their boundaries. I see it all the time in churches, and then you end up having people question all the time why assistant pastor Tom is asking of assistant Joe's assistant to do this task when it was never his assistant to begin with. You have little conflicts like that all the time. When it comes to services and conferences, you have eternal conflicts because this pastor told me to do this while this pastor was giving me responsibility to lead this team. You have volunteers questioning who's in charge and they have no idea where to go. Next thing you know, you have the team going in opposite directions. As a lead, understand that you have to give clear direction. Your word is final. You can't be giving away too much power to subordinates. Otherwise, you'll have a church that listens to many. As a servant in my church and as an employee at an organization, I understand who has authority and who doesn't. If my boss is telling me that he wants this done and he wants that done, and the employee next to me is saying, no, I think we should do it this way, and this is the way I think we should do it. Yeah, it's great to get feedback, but ultimately the lead is asking to do this and the lead wants to get this done. There will be times where that does happen, and I will always double check with the lead before I go ahead and fulfill that task. This is not to undermine my colleagues and not trust my colleagues. This is all because I want to cover myself, and not that I think they're lying, it's because I think it's important to look to the lead. If the lead told me to do something, their word is final, and I'm gonna understand that they want to do things a certain way. Yeah, I understand I can trust all of my coworkers when they ask of something because they all understand the roles, and a lot of times this does happen in other organizations. Luckily, I never have this problem where I work, but I have attended church for a long time and understand all the politics that come with it, and there are many times lack of structure. As a Christian, you serve regardless of your role, but you still fulfill the task when given. If I'm the lead, I will fulfill those tasks and lead by example, but my word is also firm. Yes, we can chat and be flexible, but I'm the lead for a specific reason. I coordinate events all the time. I may be the lead / overseer, but my boss has the final say. I take the responsibility off of my lead, and I worry about who is serving, who's operating sound, which venue we're gonna go to, all the logistics, the list goes on. His responsibility is to focus on ministering. That's how it happens at my organization. Their job is not to worry about my task. Their job is to worry about their task. People know when event time is up and next thing you know, service is going on, they come to me. They don't question the lead and go, hey, who's volunteering? Who's doing sound for this? They come up to me. In the event, something does come up, and next thing you know, the lead wants to change the itinerary for the evening. Perfect. I'm not gonna question it. I know my role and I know who's in charge. You have to learn as a lead or even as a servant that you're responsible with something that is much bigger than you. Don't make things cloudy, don't make things questionable. Trust your leader, trust your team, and it will actually go a long way. I see this many times in the church, and too many times they like to give power to too many people, and next thing you know, you have two heads on one body, and it's just a disaster waiting to happen. If you enjoyed the video, I encourage you to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and also leave a comment. If you really want to support the channel, make sure to check out the link in the description, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.